You need the headphones.
Get my headphones, sorry.
Oh, it's very hard to get rabbis that are organized. Okay, we are officially streaming live.
Okay, let me get my headphones in and we'll be getting to go. Ready to go. You hear me?
Loud and clear.
We're in. Like Flynn.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Chazak X-Files. We are going to be speaking about the GameStop sensation, a little bit about crypto and Wall Street bets. There's no question that investing, Wall Street has been a very big conversation in the news lately. It has come up, brought so many interesting discussions about the insiders versus the outsiders, the guy on the street versus the big institutions. And we've seen the rise of crypto and these new currency challenging old systems versus new systems. And we want to try to deconstruct these ideas and see what does Judaism have to say about any of these topics. Can we walk away with some more insight into how we could appreciate the depth, the nuances of these very modern challenges that we're faced today. So, Rabbi Hadjoff, where do you want to begin this conversation?
GameStop is at $63. Is that a good place to start, Rabbi Ruvain?
All right, let's start with GameStop. So, if you've been following the news or you're hearing about GME, that's a ticker symbol for a company called GameStop. GameStop is a company that sells video games. Now, if you're like me, you remember that back in the day that if you wanted a game, you had to go to the store and buy it.
The good old days.
The good old days.
We had to actually walk somewhere, walk into the store,
remember,
negotiate.
I don't know if you remember, but I had a friend at my house who was sharing how she vividly remembers going to Blockbuster and how you had to walk to Blockbuster.
I love
there was a 3 video maximum that you could rent, and you had like
I remember that.
You were only allowed to you couldn't watch an unlimited amount of movies. You only had a 3 video max you could take out.
Wow.
There's built-in limitations to what you could take out in the store back then. So similarly, you have
now you can stay up all night, watch as many videos as you want.
Yeah, you could watch. There's enough video content out there to last you more than a lifetime, and not watch one rerun. That's how much content's out there.
And still watch the worst. For some reason, the movies out there are complete garbage. What is up with that? Why are these garbage movies coming out? I don't watch that other stuff.
Yeah. There's not much out there. So Kitzur is that GameStop as a company's model is faded, just like Blockbuster. Okay, today kids don't need to go to the store to buy games. Everything is online, kind of like Netflix subscription. You subscribe to a service, you get the game directly from the cloud. You no longer need to buy no longer need to buy the actual cartridge. So, if you know anything about investing, you know that there's 2 ways of making money when you're investing in stock. One is betting that the stock is going to go up. So I'm going to purchase shares, let's say whatever they're at $1, and this company is really worth more than $1 a share. So I'll buy with the hopes that eventually there's an upswing and that the shares go up, and I'm able to benefit from watching that swing, that upward swing in that currency. So that's one way of making money in the market. Another way is something called shorting. So what that means is, like, I see the company selling for $1. But I know that, the model doesn't work. So I'm going to put a downward pressure on the stock by betting that it's going to be worth less money than $1. And now what's interesting is that all these bets, me purchasing it, holding on to it, is a bullish sign that there might be more value in this actual stock. And we could see how many people are buying and holding versus selling. We could also see how many people are shorting. So if you're looking at a stock, you could actually see how many short orders there are out there. And if there's a ridiculous amount of people shorting the stock, that actually has the ability of forcing the price of that stock to go down. Okay. So there was a bunch of big hedge funds out there who said, listen, the model here doesn't work, doesn't make any sense. This thing is trading at, let's say, $10. It really should be worth $1 at most. and their actual bets force the stock to go down. And eventually, as the stock goes down, it actually pushes the company into bankruptcy because
well, I just want to. Can I just interject a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. You're kind of putting the blame on these large hedge funds for doing that.
I'm not pointing any blame. I'm just saying this is. I'm just saying this is the model.
I hear
I'm
the
not
model,
blaming anyone.
But the model also is that the company, they're going to short stocks that they also believe are not being run well for whatever reason.
Of course, yeah, I said that. I said the model is not a good model.
So they're basically betting that it's going to go down, but they're not causing it to go down. It was going down on its way down. They're just trying to make money off the dip.
Let me say it like this. The hedge funds wouldn't bet down a stock that was doing well. They're not betting that Apple's not making money.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So it's of course that the bet was a good bet on their end. That like the bottom line is the model it's irrelevant. It's antiquated. It doesn't make sense. There's very little value there. I get that. But the point that I'm making is that as they put in those bets, those negative bets, we'll call them, those short bets, that forces prices down. So what happens is that there's a bunch of guys on Reddit, and they have their own group called WallstreetBets. And they say, like, we see that there are 8 or 9 stocks on the stock exchange that are being heavily shorted by massive amounts of money, more money than the actual value in the companies themselves. So you're shorting at 150%. You're making much more money than the actual company. How do I sell something that's not really there? Which is a whole other thing.
Well, they borrowed it. They're not actually buying it.
No. Let's say the total value of GameStop is 100 million. Let's just say it was. Okay. But the amount of money they can make on their shorts is 150 million. So where's that extra $50 million of value coming from? Do you know what I'm saying? That's a separate conversation. Anyway, so these guys on Reddit say, you know what? Let's give it back to these big hedge funds. Let's give it back to them. What are we going to do? We're going to go and we're going to protest, like Occupy Wall Street style. We're all going to buy the stocks, and we're going to hold on to it, and that's going to force the price to go up. And we're going to keep buying and buying and buying.
I'm going to interject here for a second as well. Hope you don't mind, Rabbi.
No, I don't mind. Please,
okay.
Conversation.
You're saying that it's like the Occupy Wall Street idea. These people are there to make money. In other words, there may be a part of them that's like, well, let's get the big guy. And the media has portrayed this as though it's David against Goliath. But in the end, these are just people making money who've managed to rally together. In the process, lots of the people who were also in it to make money. They're not in it.
100%.
I mean, we both know people who've made money off this. I mean, my kids came home and say, how come, a 10-year-old kid who made $500 or a 20-year-old kid who made $80,000, right? These aren't people like, oh, we're going to occupy Wall Street and let's bring down the big man. They're trying to make money based upon this short squeeze of pushing up the stock price, knowing full well that these big hedge funds have bet on it going down.
100%. And I think that, as you're saying that, you have to remember that nothing can be said in a vacuum, and everything that I'm saying, there's a backstory here. We are going through a very interesting economic situation right now with COVID and lockdowns. You have more people invested in the stock market than ever before. You have new apps like Robinhood, which make it super accessible for the layman to get into the markets. And you have social media, which actually works to a certain degree. See, if it was just stam guys wanting to make money, I don't believe that WallstreetBets would work. It's fueled by much more than just money. It's an ideology. Okay. And I think that people, I think it's a mistake to think it's just about money. Yes, I agree with you.
I think you're absolutely right. That's why I want to get into eventually, not yet though. There is this thing that just came out that you sent me, that this is people looking for equality.
Right.
There's definitely a thought process behind this, not just people putting it to the stock market. They are trying to make a point and trying to redistribute wealth.
Correct.
That among many other people. And that's what Robinhood has allowed them to do. I mean, I'm a Robinhood user myself, any stock tips I get from you, Rabbi, I use Robinhood to execute them. Okay,
good. I don't use Robinhood, but I will say that crypto. Well, let's kind of like segue into cryptocurrency.
No. I was going to let's just finish this because you're doing very good there. So let's see what happens in the end. So I interrupted you. In the end, what happened over here?
In the end, what ended up happening was like this: that the stock was forced to go up, And as a way for the hedge funds to kind of protect themselves, they have to buy stocks also as it's going up to hedge the loss. But the very fact of their purchasing power forces the stock to go even higher. So now they're caught in this vicious cycle where they have these ridiculous bets on the stock going down, but they got to hedge. They're buying actually the stock that they're trying to short. But in the interim, everyone's buying as the price is going up, and more people go in and go in and go in, and it forces the exact opposite thing to happen. Instead of the stock going down, it's skyrocketing.
So basically, what you had was you had the seesaw effect. You got these billionaire hedge fund people who've been portrayed in the media all of a sudden. And by the way, I'm going to talk about it because I happen to be close to one of the people who got trapped in this crazy cycle, which he never saw coming. And I know the guy very, very well. He's a close personal friend and a very big philanthropist and not a bad bone in his body, who got attacked. You know, he was a victim of this. And it was very, very difficult. And obviously the media attention on him and his family, which he's totally against. It's not who he is. He's a very, very humble person. And he got done. He got done for billions of dollars. So, you know, the media, they're the ones who put it aside as, you know, oh, he deserves it. He's a rich guy. He's part of the Goliath, and we're the David over here. And politicians went in. Listen, I hear they're entitled to say what they want to say. We have a free media. But there's another side to this. First of all, everyone's shorting. Every hedge fund out there is going to be shorting at some point, and every celebrity who's come against it, you know, and you know, this Portnoy guy and Elon Musk, all these other people, they've all invested money in the past and they've shorted. So they're getting on this kind of like populist high horse over here and come away thinking, oh, I'm so much better. We would never do such a thing. It's the evil hedge fund guys. They've all done it and they've all profited from it. So I don't like the hypocrisy of these individuals. That's one side. And you can fight against me because I know we have a little bit of business opinion over here. I also have another problem that while Robinhood's amazing and I use it and it's given me access to buying things which normally I can't because I'm not buying in the millions or even the hundreds of thousands, you know what I'm saying? There's a danger. Someone's left holding the bag over here and we're seeing it now. That your average Joe Schmo who suddenly is able, you know, these 10-year-old kids and 20-year-old kids who are able to suddenly buy where they weren't able or equipped to in the past. And everyone's like, this is the chance for the little David's come back. They're actually being held back. So these Wall Street bet guys.
Let's explain that. What ends up happening is that after this whole seesaw effect happened in the stock, Robinhood, which is the platform that a lot of people, these millennials are using and the Wall Street bet people are using to purchase and sell their stocks, Robinhood said that we are going to stop trading this stock. You can't buy it, you could only sell it. So if you can only sell a stock, that by definition forces the stock to go down.
Right.
And then they limited, when they opened it, they limited how many stocks you could actually purchase. You could only purchase one stock a day, which is another way of forcing the stock to go down. There's a lot of conspiracy as to whether or not.
So they will answer because I get the email from Robinhood and they're like, we just didn't have the money to cover this whole thing.
Right.
We got stuck in this crazy, insane cycle. I mean, this is like the financial story of the 2000s, you know, this is crazy 2008 in terms of, but only a few people really victimized over here, you know. Also, there's, again, the David Goliath thing has really given power to the people. But I'm saying it's going to have the opposite effect. There are people who put money in, thinking it would keep going up. They normally wouldn't be able to buy. Now they're buying. They have no expense. They don't know what they're doing. And what are they left with? They're left with holding onto stock that they bought at 200-300. And right now, as we speak, it's trading at 63. Okay, so
yeah,
there's losers in this.
Their phrase they're using is HODL. HODL,
which is
an act. It started out as a spelling mistake or a typo. Someone said hold, like hold, but they wrote HODL, and HODL now is an acronym for hold on for dear life. Don't sell, and that's hold the line. HODL, don't let go. Hold on for dear life. You got to show it to these. So listen. There's two things happening here. I think that the question is like this: capitalism has a very profound impact on creating tremendous amount of wealth. and that wealth is tied into your effort, your energy. There's there's a power to it. It's inspiring. It's an equalizer, I believe. I really do. But to like any extreme, it can become bad. Do you think that we should have a society where 10% of all the wealth is controlled by 90% of all the wealth is controlled by 10% of the people?
Okay, so you're right. It doesn't sound good. Has there been a society in history, even pre-capitalism, that didn't have the upper class? Go back to England and the aristocracy, Victorian times. You've always had small groups. Do you think in communist countries, right? Fine, it's maybe not the advanced business class or the upper class, it's the government class, which you see in Russia today. That's how Putin made all his money.
That's the
by going along
extreme.
And thieving money. You're right. But I'm saying that just to blame capitalism for that is an unfair.
I'm not blaming capitalism for it. I think that, if we ask the question, what is the Jewish view of monetary policy?
Yeah.
Is Judaism pro a capitalistic society or a socialistic society?
Okay. So we're going to have to say a few things over here. First of all, we have a strong belief that God decides who gets money. Okay, that is that is a principle of our faith. God decides. Some countries become rich, some do not. Some people become wealthy. We've mentioned this before. The Hebrew word for money, the more than older word, is zuzim. Zuzim, right? Like chadgadia, zaben abe zutre, chagad. So what we see over there, zaben abe bitre zuzim, right? Why zuz? Because zuz comes from the word zaz, which means to move. Okay, money moves around. There is also, we know, a great desire for money. That's why we say, I think in your nefesh, nichsaf means I have a great desire, but the loshen kesef, money is in there. There's a desire for money. It's inbuilt. I lived and worked on a kibbutz for a year. The kibbutz movement founded with great principles, but eventually they all pretty much had to privatize because there's a natural desire of people to want to be financially independent.
Right.
That's why communism doesn't work. So what you're saying may be true. It doesn't seem right that only a few people get to have the money on top. But money moves around, right? The Rothschilds were, and now we look at them. And as you go through society generations, I know many, many families who were very, very wealthy families who 1-2 generations, what happens? The father comes over with a shirt on his back, survives the Holocaust, makes all the money, right? Spends his entire life not spending any and making it. The kids come and inherit the grandkids, and they spend it all in one generation, or maybe,
Listen,
they're lucky 10 years.
I hear where you're going with this, and I think that what you're saying is true, but I think that you might be making. I mean, you didn't finish, but I think that you might be on a track that's going to end you. That's gonna take you to a place that's an error. Meaning, in Judaism, of course, there's the idea of capitalism that works, and there's an idea of socialism that works as well. And the truth that Judaism is a hybrid of a capitalistic, socialistic society. It wants there to be free markets, but it also wants society to feel a sense of responsibility for the lower class. I'll give you an example. You have a field, and you're living in Israel, and you just produced 100 apples. How many of those apples are yours? Are they all yours? And the answer is no, they're not all yours, right? You have a obligation to give some of that to the priest, some of that to the poor.
Yeah.
Or you can even take your own. So whatever that is, let's say it's 20%. So you have to give 20 apples away, 80 are yours for Masa and Matan. Now, you're able to produce 80 apples because you leased a field from Simon. Okay, but it's something called Yovel is happening. And that field is no longer yours. It's going to go back to Simon, and now you no longer have the ability of producing 100 apples.
That's the Jubilee year that comes around every 50 years.
Thank you. That's correct. Which means that all lands go back to their original owners.
They revert, yeah.
So now that system is not a typical capitalistic system.
Yeah.
It's capitalistic in the sense that there's opportunity for you to go ahead and create business, right? I could now sell 100 apples or, produce 100 apples, of which 20 I have to give away. I have the 80 for myself, but that's not forever. And I think that it's again, I'm going to say this, it's going to sound strange, like real estate is a very unfair system of capitalism, because once you own it and you're able to just continuously collect rent, you're good. And that's, you give it down to the next generation, next generation, next generation. That's it. It's always there. Not taking that away from anybody.
Can I give the other side to all this? I hear what you're saying. I don't think that's socialism. Let me explain why. I hear what you're saying that it's capitalism. I think you are conflating two things over here. And that is, there is a law of taking care of the poor person. The Gemara says, why did God create poor people? So the rich people could help the poor people. Okay. And the idea is that God decides who's poor and who's rich. And as we said, Zaz, it moves around. God willing, is moving in another direction soon. But that's what in the end what's happening over here. So there is an obligation upon the individual to set up societies, right, that are going to help the poor. And we have taxes, even a capitalist society. I mean, I think if we call America, the trashing that America gets is unbelievable. Right. And I believe that most of it is not worthy because America is a very good country. It's a Medina Shel Chesed. Never in history have you seen as being a capitalist country taking care of people. A person can be sick, they'll be taken care of in hospital if they need be, right? Okay, maybe if people are richer, they get better hospital service, I understand. But the basic level of care in America, right, 2021, beats the highest level of care throughout history. Right, let's look at other societies. Go back to Rome and Greece. Someone was sick, they left them out in the cold and they died. Right? If you had too many girls, right, you couldn't afford them in India. They put them up on a hill just to die of frostbite. So I hear what you're saying. I don't call that socialism. Socialism means we are taking the money from the people and we're handing the levers to these people in government. Okay? So we're trusting people to take care of that. That is different to communities coming together, not centralizing power and decisions. We are saying that God decides where the money goes. That is very, very different to a socialist or a more extreme communist society where the government is making that decision. So we are a theocentric society, right? Socialism is not. It's saying, you know what, we're going to have a few elected officials, and in many cases will become communists and not be elected, become unelected officials who are going to make the decision where this money goes. That, I think, is antithetical to Judaism. So I just want to so you kind of said that Judaism has a socialism element to it. I'm not so sure. And even capitalism takes taxes and takes care of people.
It's true, but I mean, this is not me. There's someone by the name of James Harrington who wrote a book called The Commonwealth of Oceania. And he was one of the first people to advocate the idea of redistribution of wealth. Right, the idea that the government could and should take from the rich and give to the poor in order to maintain the balance of wealth in society. Right? Where did this Harrington get this idea from? He got it from Yovel, the institution. That's the Jubilee year, right? So Harrington's understanding was the idea that the land was there to maintain a sense of balance.
I'm not sure that's correct.
It's not perfectly equal distribution of wealth. But it was because ultimately it's the God is the ultimate legislator and he decides what's being given around. But there's this idea of fairness and not just we're waiting for the individual to take care of the poor.
That was specifically that was to keep land in the right family.
Not just in the land. It wasn't
in the right family.
It wasn't just about.
Yeah, they weren't taking the money off those people and distributing it among the other tribes.
Right, because remember that we were living in an agricultural society, that the land itself was money.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? This is not my idea. I mean, there's a great book that I recommend anyone who wants to understand these ideas. There's a book called The Hebrew Republic. I forget the name of the author. But in The Hebrew Republic, the author, an Israeli guy, makes the claim that Judaism is a hybrid of socialism and capitalism. And he goes through the sources of how it kind of all works together. So it's not my idea. I'm basing it on Harvard professor. But my own ideas, but he kind of proves it and organizes it.
I'm not, I hear what you're saying. I wouldn't call Judaism socialism. I would say there is a strong requirement in Jewish law and Jewish thought. We can give many examples where a person is obligated. There's a difference, though. This is the key difference I want to bring down over here. And this is something which we need capitalism to hold on to as well. And that is, there needs to be a certain amount of rahmanut, right? We have mercy. We know one of the key traits of a Jew being a Jew is rahmanim, right? We are the people who have mercy. And we're meant to, Torah is meant to invest in us a mercy. If capitalism, like you're saying, let's talk about capitalism, ends up being a selfish pursuit of wealth for the sake of wealth, without any philanthropy. That's what I'm saying. I started with this guy because the guy from the hedge fund who everyone's depicting as being an evil guy, although believe me, they'd all take his position in a minute. And there's many other hedge funds and companies, right? You think Apple, right? I know they have this beautiful image in the world. You know what? Just do any research and see how the working conditions and living conditions of the Apple producers in China. They're scared to talk about it, you know. The media won't speak about it because they love them, obviously. But no company, capitalist company or communist company is like so virtuous. In the end, someone's being paid a little bit of money, or we will be able to spend a little bit of money on this piece of hardware. Okay, so there has to be a heart that goes into it, and that's a problem in capitalism. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
That happens to the people I know who run these hedge funds. The one I'm talking about, I'm thinking about right because he was the one who was actually hit by this. Gives a vast amount of money to charity. Yes, he lives in a very, very nice house. Extremely humble person. He's a big philanthropist. You know, Warren Buffett made it. You think every Warren Buffett? You think Elon Musk's businesses? All these people? Yeah, you think they all walk around like with little wings on their back, friendly, you know, not hurting anyone, right? You think no one's being, they're all being sued at some point or another for work abuse. So I just want to, before we pick on the hedge funds, everyone in capitalist society, if they operate under God's rulership, realizing there's a higher authority even to them, and they're not narcissistic in their ways, they have to treat their employees with this. Doesn't mean they have to become socialistic, but you can have a kind and fair capitalism. Reuven, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you have to mute the other people on the call. Sorry, Reuven.
Second, I can't hear you anymore. I lost your audio.
You lost me too?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Okay, got you back. Got you back. Good. Yeah. Sorry about
that. Got you back. I'm passionate about this, as we are on every topic. You know, I knew we were going to disagree a little bit. I just don't like the placement of the word socialism on Judaism because I believe they're diametric in many, many ways. Mostly because socialism is run by people, and Judaism is based not on giving the power to people, but on God's deciding where the money goes. Everything we do is in God's hands.
The first
is a godly prospect.
Listen, the idea of the first Rashi, right? The first pasuk, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz, right? God creates the heavens and the earth. Rashi says that why does Chumash begin with Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz? To tell you that the earth belongs to God, right? And He gives it to whoever He finds it fit to give it to. He takes it from them and He gives it to others whenever He finds fit. You own your property not by divine right, but by divine lease.
Very good. Yeah, Emet. There's no doubt about it. And I also want to mention the Gemara very clearly delineates how we're meant to understand money, how we relate to it. Listen, you said we have to give away 10%, but not
get the son of a bitch.
Right.
Get him.
Okay, Reuven, you're gonna have to mute the other people in the call. If everyone watching on Zoom could mute themselves, please, we'd appreciate it.
Got it.
Got it? You done it?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do we relate to money? Money, we say, is a gift from God. Every penny is a gift from God, and we are grateful for it. And we're held to account how we spend every single penny, which I try to tell my daughters when they buy half of Amazon stuff from China, but they don't listen. Mm-hmm. However, the Gemara tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I mean, everyone speaks about this, decides where the money goes. Hashem is the ultimate decider, right? Which is anti-socialism, definitely anti-communism, that says, right, it's just the whoever holds the levers of power, and society will decide, and that's the end of it. Right? Who these angels in government are that communism expects to be kind and hand out money equally to everyone, I don't know. Because every communist society has failed, and ends up being that the few people in government end up taking all the money until the next group come along and steal it from them. So it doesn't seem to work. But the Gemara does tell us to have a certain common sense when it comes to parnasa. We're going to split our money, a third into property, a third into into Taltalim, into objects, I think. And third, you leave as cash, right?
Right.
So the Gemara is accepting the fact that people are going to make money, and people are going to make more, people are going to make less, as we said already. Why do we have poor people? So the rich can give to the poor.
Right.
So we are following a Torah paradigm, a paradigm that God is deciding against the money, and we are expected to be merciful and hand it out to people who are in need, right? Which I think capitalist countries do very, very well. Although they seem to be blamed for everything, and everyone seems to think that communism and socialism is going to be the solution to all of our problems, which I really, really believe they're not.
Listen, I'm not saying I don't believe capitalism is bad. I think that as far as a system, capitalism has brought more wealth to the individual than any other system out there, much more so than socialism. It has more levels of equality. I just think that, again, like every system to an extreme has its dangerous points. Like I've said this to you before, that tzitzit, this is the Vilna Gaon. He says, if you look at tzitzit, the fringes on the four-cornered garments that men wear, right? He says that it starts off with the four corners, representing the four corners of the earth. And then you have these knots, and there's a very, very precise amount of knots with them being tied around, 7 strands, another knot, 7 strands, another knot, and so on and so forth. But at the end, you have these tassels that are loose and they fly all over the place. And the Vilna Gaon says that is supposed to remind you that at the end of every single system is chaos. So no matter how much organization you want to bring or how much fairness you want to bring to any system, there's to any extreme of any system, there's always going to be problems. And that's what we're facing right now. Right. I'm not saying that capitalism is evil. I'm not saying that at all. I think capitalism is important. I'm just saying that when we reach an extreme situation where I think we're hitting it right now, where people are seeing how, money is being created. And I think this might be a good segue into crypto currencies were created in a way where we could decentralize money. Right now, all the money is centralized, which means that the government could come and take your money away at any point, right? Like this, I'm not sure if you saw this. There were these gym owners in New Jersey who left their gym open during COVID. They were fined $141,000 by the state of New Jersey for keeping their business open. And the state of New Jersey went to their bank account and took the money out.
Wow.
Asking them.
Wow.
Okay.
That is scary.
Yeah, that's very scary.
Wow.
So,
I mean, as a precedent.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's terrifying. Scary. They could just come in and take whatever they want. The IRS could do the same thing, by the way.
Right. Remember IRS, the IRS? You put the words together, it's theirs.
What is it?
The IRS, those two words spell theirs. It belonged to them anyway.
Okay, I didn't stop where you're going. Got it. So crypto is an opportunity for the individual to have full transparency of the money. I'll give you an example. Right now, if I wanted to send you $100,000, okay, there's going to be a 7 day. It's going to take 7 days for the money to leave my account to clear into your account. The question is why? What's going on? Why does it take so long for the money to transfer? And the answer is we don't really know why, right? But there's all kinds of suspicion that the banks have access to those funds and they're collecting interest on it. And who knows what they're doing, that we just don't know. There's no transparency.
Listen, you had the interest of those 3 days with all the money that's passing around. You got a few $1 billion probably just there.
The Federal Reserve, okay, has never, ever opened up their books. There's never been an auditing of the Federal Reserve. We have no idea what's going on in there.
I'll do it. Okay.
Lots of us would do it. Lots of us would do it. But so when we think of like cryptocurrencies was an opportunity to create a system where we are able to
take ownership,
centralize and take ownership, and have have clarity, see what's happening. Yes.
Yeah, transparency.
Lana Schwartzman is on the Facebook, and she's saying that crypto can be seized by governments. It's true. Actually, more recently, the government of Nigeria made it illegal to use cryptocurrencies in that country.
By the way, that's okay, because I got an email from a cousin in Nigeria, and I just inherited $14 million from my president. How did you know? You got the same
I have the
email?
same one. I have the same
Oh
one.
my God, we're
I have
rich.
the same one.
Woo!
So
Yeah.
but again, what makes crypto so tantalizing is that, yeah, even though Lana can be taken out of my account, it can't be taken out of my Trezor. It can't be taken out of my other, I can put this in a place where it's somewhat protected. And I think that, but even though, I'm not really concerned about the protection as much as I am the transparency. I want to know where things are moving. And I think that's where current, monetary systems fail us, that it's not centralized. It's not decentralized, it's centralized. And we have no idea. Like, we have no idea if Robinhood stopped the sale of GameStop because it was trying to, protect itself or the interests of the hedge funds that own GameStop, that own, Robinhood.
We're going to find out, I think.
Well, there's a lawsuit right now. There's a lawsuit for this reason. There's a lawsuit for this reason right now.
Yeah. But, by the way, just so we know that Bitcoin right now is at $38,580 for one coin. I do not understand how a coin, a currency, can reach that level of money. It makes no sense to me. So although I own a fraction of a coin, a little sliver of a coin, because everyone got excited, so I got in there. I mean, like babkas. But I'll be honest with you, it makes no sense. I don't expect that money to stay in my account.
So the question is, where does value come from? What makes something have value? Right?
Good question.
What gives something? What makes the dollar have value? Why do people? And if you go to Israel, if anyone here has been to Israel, I moved into Israel, and the guy says to me, "It's going to cost you 700." I'm like, "Okay, 700 shekels." He's like, "No, $700. No one takes rent in shekels in Israel." I'm like, "Why not? We're living in Israel. Everything is pegged to the dollar." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And the question is why? Why is the dollar that currency that all governments are using? It's the major currency of the world. It's the current currency of the world. And people,
I like the fact you've got a green light behind you. It looks like you got money behind you.
That's exactly why I chose.
Machine behind
that's
you.
exactly why it's going brr. That's right.
You're a little Bitcoin making machine behind you there, Rabbi. I know what you're up to. You sneaky man.
I'm not buying Bitcoin.
Okay, so what is about dollars? What makes dollars popular and desirable?
So let's go back. Where does money come from? Money comes from, right? We know that money is important because we can't carry on gold, which is what people were using before. Gold had value. It cost a certain amount of money to mine the gold, to unearth the gold and bring it out. And we agree that there's some kind of inherent value here. We're no longer going to just use trading of goods to make money, to get what we need. Instead, we're going to give and allocate a certain amount of value to gold itself. But even gold became too cumbersome. We switched it to silver also. And then we decided we're going to switch off the gold and the silver standard. We're going to create something called fiat currency, which is a promissory note that there's money that's supported by either gold or some other kind of security. Okay. That's no longer true today. In America, we are off the gold standard. There's no real backing behind the US dollar, aside from the security that the dollar and the government is honest and it's transparent when it comes to, sharing its details. Now, I would say also that America is probably the number one currency because we have most innovative companies in the world, and therefore there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a very good Justice Department, police department. I often rate the value of a company based on how expensive it is to murder someone in that country.
Yes, I'm just getting some feedback up here, Rabbi.
You hear me now?
You're reverberating.
Do you hear me now? Am I still reverberating? Am I still reverberating?
Yeah.
So we have Alvin Adler writing here that Torah is definitely not a socialistic construct of society. It has aspects of it and charity, but that is where it is similar. I agree with you, Alvin. Yeah, it's not. I'm not saying it's socialistic. I'm saying that it has aspects of it, and that. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%. But I would say that just going back to crypto is that it creates a unique opportunity to discuss like where does value come from. Now I think that so much of what we're seeing today, as far as money moving and pouring into cryptocurrencies and to stocks, is really just an opportunity for this other class of people, the guy on the street, to figure out a way of creating wealth for themselves. So we'll decide whether or not Bitcoin.
Could you just mute? Just Ruben.
Yeah.
Just mute everyone in your screen.
One second, I just need to unmute you.
Okay.
You're unmuted?
Go back. That's
okay,
better
great.
now.
All right, great.
That was...
All right. Amazing. So where were we? So value. So where does value come from? Value comes from whatever we decide has value, right? We determine what has value. Now, obviously, and this is exactly what's happening with GameStop. These, WallstreetBets people are saying that this stock has value, and they're putting money into this stock because they believe there's value there. Now, ultimately, is there real value there? The answer is no. There is no real value.
We know that the company it's not worth anywhere near where it's priced at right now. There's no doubt about it.
But people determine where value lies because of supply and demand. And therefore, if I decide that there is value to something, and I'm willing to spend money on that, I can go ahead and determine and pay more for it. Right? It's like art. Why is one painting worth millions of dollars versus another? Right? Where does that value come from? It comes from the individuals who are willing to purchase and who find the value and the rareness of that piece of art and so on and so forth. But there's a whole entire, book of evaluation for art and different kinds of art pieces that are worth millions, even billions of dollars. So where does value lie? Value lies with the masses. And this is very scary because we're living at a time where we have social media, which should have been an amazing place to kind of decentralize ideas and share ideas and create a better, more utopian society. And instead, we're seeing it being used in a way where they're manipulating these bigger systems. Now, I think they're both wrong, meaning I think that the big hedge funds have to be doing more to give back or be more public about how they're giving back so that people are aware of it. They're doing bad PR. Okay, because the guy in the street doesn't feel like they're getting shafted by the big guys, and that there's favoritism in these big systems for the big companies. And we saw this with the bailing out of these big banks in the 2008 crash.
Oh, you're bouncing and reverberating again.
I don't think it's me. I think it's somebody else.
Yeah, someone's got to. Please mute yourselves, everyone. Thank you. That's it. Keep going.
Yeah, I think that in 2008 when the banks were bailed out, that was a kind of like that was a siman that the big guy can go ahead and get away with making poor investment decisions. And there is a little bit of unfairness. For example, a bank, a company like Apple can go ahead and it could create a bond and borrow money at near 0% and use that money to make more business. I can't do that. You can't do that, right? And if I could, by the way,
some would say they earn the right to do that by becoming Apple.
What gives them the right? There's actually a conversation right now that there is someone in the Biden administration that wants to get rid of the credit agency.
Wow.
They want to destroy credit agencies because who says that's a fair system? It's great. It's scary. I'm saying I'm not scary. Again. I think it's scary because I think that these are all extremes.
I don't like the fact. I don't like governments extreme either, and they're taking over control once again. I'll say what Milton Friedman once said. Who says that any of these government agencies and these government actors are going to be, angels and only do what's right for society? All right. There's too much of the person invested in. I want to just mention one other thing, if you don't mind. Just to mention one Jewish point. If I just wrote an essay about this, which is going to be published. We went into Avdut, into slavery, Mitzrayim. And there's a number of reasons why the Jewish people needed to go into slavery. One of the famous reasons is because we had to remember all of history, what the slave feels like. So God put us into slavery, into Avdut, to help us feel and understand firsthand what it means to be a slave. So during times of history, there are going to be people who would go through servitude and challenges in society, and we'd have to feel that. So we should have immediate connection and sympathy and empathy for those individuals. Another reason is emunah helps us build faith in the most difficult of times. And all these are good and obviously very valid reasons. But I'll give you one more reason which I read. You know, what Paro did was he made us make the bricks. How did Paro make us make bricks to build in Egypt? He wore a golden brick on a chain around his neck, says the Midrash. And he would say, look, Hebrews, build, and you'll be earning gold by doing this. Right. Eventually, he obviously didn't pay them, and eventually made them work without any payment at all to make bricks. And then he didn't give them the straw. They had to go find the straw in the middle of the night in order to make the bricks. So one of the commentators, I think it's Tosfot Shalem, I think I have the source written down, and I mentioned this in one of my books. The reason he did this is that the Jewish people, he was like a 13-year-old kid, right? The father gives him, terrible things. Hey, take a cigarette. He smokes. It's disgusting. I won't ever do that again. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to remove from us, God wanted to remove for us this obscene desire for money. There's this element. Why do we start over there? Because we went through people who had this obscene desire for wealth. We were victims of it. We understand the pain and the challenge that comes with it. Because God knew that for us, the Am HaNivcha, the famous Jewish people, to do their job in the world and to do the mitzvot, it's not cheap. And that's why one of the reasons Jewish people are financially successful is that God gave us a mission and we need money and financial resources to fulfill that mission. So money for us is a means to an end, not just an end to in itself. So I think this discussion of capitalism and socialism and charitable things, in the end, we have a role and responsibility as Jewish people to view money as a means to an end, not an end in of itself. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. And that is something that I think needs to be captured. So while we're seeing these crazy events happening, and there's no coincidence that a lot of people who are on both sides over here are Jewish people, right? These hedge funds and these Wall Street bet guys, believe me, there's a lot of Jews involved there as well. Yep. Right. And the anti-Semitism, by the way, is another discussion up now, which we're seeing a lot of these subreddits are horrific. And in social media, it's just terrifying what we're seeing over here. It's related to this as well. The thieving Jew. We have to be very, very careful before we throw, too many knives and say, oh, these are evil. No, these people are evil. There's a responsibility. There's a desire for money. It's there for a purpose. It's there to be used for the good. And just to blame the hedge funds, everything. Remember, they're operating in a system that was set up before they existed. They're just playing the game, and the rules are already there. Let's not forget that.
Remember, I'm not taking a position on any one of these, different groups. To me, I can't take a position because I don't know I don't know. But I will say that as far as capitalism as a system, and as far as Judaism is concerned, is interested in one thing. Judaism is interested that we use the money, like you said, the zuzim, to move things around, or the damim, the blood, the life energy of a society is its money. And we're meant to go ahead and make it, enjoy it, but at the same time, not forget the people in need, the orphan, the widow, the idea of having a kuppah, the idea of having a place where we know, or a gemach, where we could support those people that are in need is part and parcel of building a Jewish world. We have this idea of Yishuv Olam. We need to make sure that there are certain levels of fairness in the game. There has to be fairness in the system, and there is no fairness in the system. When people feel that there's a lack of fairness in the system, or that it's rigged and it's being slanted towards one particular group in favor of them and not the other, this is where this is where revolutions happen. This is where civil wars happen, and so on and so forth. Okay,
that I have to agree. If there's a general feeling, and it's based upon fact, that things are siding towards one side of things, then there's no doubt about it. That's again, we said all of the greatest societies that have fallen always fell from the inside, not the outside. Right? It wasn't invading armies that came brought down Rome. Right? The problem was in Rome. It was in Greece. It was made by decisions, but it came from inside. So this is something which we here, because we're in a good country, America, it's not Eretz Yisrael, but it's a good place to be Jewish right now. You're free to be a Jew. You can learn Torah. You can do mitzvot. I mean, we take it for granted. Most societies in history didn't allow us to do that without a lot of trouble. But we're seeing anti-Semitism rear its ugly head. So we have to be extremely careful now, especially when it comes to financial doings and commentary with how we treat this, because, you know, it's like when the oil prices went up in the 1970s, people used to have bumper stickers, burn Jews, not oil, right? Whenever the average Joe in America gets hit by financial problems, when his six-pack costs too much, right? And prices going up, it's the Jew. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it right now. So we have to be extremely careful about this.
All right, awesome. I think this is a great place to end. We want to thank you all for listening. I think that the big ultimate takeaway here is that we need to have a system that is fair, or a system that, you know, expresses or shows some level of fairness. And that if you know, we have civil unrest, is because we haven't figured out a way of expressing there are real fair opportunity within the society we live in today. And until that, I think we'll continue to see civil unrest.
Very true. Our blessing is that we may all be successful, and God willing, we'll see the coming of Mashiach, when real true equality will reign over the entire world, God willing. At that time, we know for sure in Olam Haba.
Amen, guys. Thank you so much for listening. This is the end of this particular series. Rabbi Hajjaf and I will come back at some point. We're going to come up with new conversations. If anyone has any ideas, please feel free to send them to us.
We'll be back.
But we will be back. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. I hope you are staying warm and safe. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Be blessed.